Hi, and welcome to another episode Around the Neighborhood with me, Scott McMahon. And this is the show about the quest for fun, history, and mystery in our backyards. And today, we're in Oregon City, just above the Willamette Falls, and what most recently was the Blue Heron Paper Company. A few episodes back, I explored the history and the mystery and the fun about this area. But I'm back again to give you an update on the Willamette Falls Riverwalk project. I was fortunate enough to get a tour of the facilities and got to take some photos and some video, but not to the degree that I could do a full-blown episode like I normally do. So anyway, in this episode, I'm going to take you on a little stroll through the abandoned paper mill and what's in store for this area and the whole world to enjoy. So here's a quick recap of what's happened here. Back in 2011, the Blue Heron Paper Company closed and filed for bankruptcy, which meant that over 22 acres of this area was up for sale. And so local, regional, and state governments came together to form the Willamette Falls Legacy Project. And their vision was to open up public access and provide jobs and opportunities, maintain and respect the local ecosystem, and connect all of us to the heritage and the history of the falls. So the property fell into bankruptcy courts, and in 2014, a private investor bought the site for $2.2 million. $2.2 million for this huge, valuable piece of land. Anyway, soon after the Legacy Project partnership was formed, they realized that the creation of a nonprofit would add another layer of support for the Riverwalk, and so the Willamette Falls Trust was formed. And they are a nonprofit organization who are trying to raise funds and engage the community to ensure that the new vision for a world-class Riverwalk at the falls becomes a reality. The Trust works closely with the Willamette Falls Legacy Project, along with the newest owners of the area, the Confederate Tribes Grand Ronde, who bought this land for about $15 million from the former investor, who essentially flipped his $2.2 million investment into $50 million by really doing nothing to the area. Even though the tribes of the Grand Ronde own land, there is an easement and an agreement that the Legacy Project can build a public walkway and other community buildings in the space for the public to enjoy. The Grand Ronde may be building additional commercial space or approved buildings as the phases roll out. Since one of the goals of the Willamette Falls Trust is to engage community support and engagement, this episode is to help do just that, which is why I was able to get a tour of the facilities. Now, what you're going to see is a fraction of what is here and what is planned. Without further ado, let's start our tour and on with the voiceover. We start here at Main Street in Highway 99 East. There was a time when Main Street ran all the way down to the falls. In fact, you'll see later on where 3rd and 4th Street cut across Main Street. Hopefully these historic streets will become accessible once again when this project is completed. You can see railway tracks that go along Main Street. Large freight cars and trolley cars used to operate through here. I'd love to see trolley cars come back here to add some vintage flair to the area. Speaking of 3rd Street, here's an old photo of it from 1945, and here's what it looks like now. But what will it look like when the Falls project is completed? I believe this area is a section that the tribe, the Grand Ronde, will be developing. As we walk down 3rd Street, we pass what was once the woolen mill. In fact, the Legacy Project partners have identified specific buildings to be preserved and restored for historical enjoyment. I heard a rumor that the McMahon brothers were out at the site at one point. At the end of 3rd Street, we end up at one of the first lookout points of the planned Riverwalk. Final designs for Phase 1 are in the process, and the Riverwalk team is working with the Confederate Tribes of Grand Ronde to ensure all parties' needs are met. Again, you'll have to imagine what this place will look like when things are cleaned up and what kind of lookout structure is built. We're across what I believe would have been down 2nd Street, and we're standing on top of an open structure that is intended to become a public yard. What's crazy is that the structure we're standing on covers the historic tail race channel. It's been closed off and filled with all sorts of things you can only imagine. The goal of the Riverwalk is to open this channel back up and create an ecosystem for the fish to rest again before trying to get up the falls. Speaking of 2nd Street, I believe this is the location of the original McLaughlin house before it was moved up the bluff to Center Street, where it resides today. When this project goes through, I had to swing the camera around because the sunlight's going to blast my face. There are numerous tanks and cylinders that have been left behind, and one in particular is the horn sphere that housed sulfuric acid that was used to break down the pulp during the paper production process. My guess is that it'll be cleaned out and preserved and added to the new development as a historic piece. As we continue towards the falls, we come across a section of the PGE Dam, so there's another party who will be vital to the development of the falls project. Portions of the land are owned by Portland General Electric, so it'll be interesting to see what redevelopment can and cannot happen around this area. This particular dam is PGE's oldest and can power about 11,000 homes. Back in 1889, this was the nation's longest transmission of electricity. Power was generated here and traveled over 14 miles away to light up the streetlights in Portland. Willamette Falls is much more than just the past 200 years of history here. It represents a culturally significant and meaningful place for the indigenous people that have been gathering here long before the pioneers came. One of the main objectives for the Willamette Falls Trust is to preserve and tell the story of this historic place. So, thousands and thousands of years of humans coming to the falls, there's a lot to tell. We all know Niagara Falls, but many people don't know that the Willamette Falls is the 2nd largest waterfall by volume in North America. When the Riverwalk project is completed, the public will gain access to this amazing wonder that has been mostly closed off for the past 150 years. I'll leave the links to the Willamette Falls Trust in the description of this video if you want to sign up for their email updates and to see where you can help in this massive undertaking. Well, I hope you liked this episode, and since the show is sponsored by Real Estate Services, all my contact information is listed in the description of this video. In case you're ever looking to buy or sell a home in the near future, please let me know. Until then, I'll see you around the neighborhood.